Hey everybody, this is Brett with the Indie Comics Dispatch and broadcasting from an undisclosed location deep within the Milky Way galaxy. This is a broadcast from the Dispatch. Good evening to you.
What's going on? What's going on?
Not much, just a little thing called our Kickstarter. That's it.
Oh yeah, we're just killing it right now. We're just killing it.
So I'm gonna brag for a minute.
Go ahead.
We decided to do this Kickstarter.
Mhm.
The goal, the biggest chunk of the goal was for a nonprofit status.
Yep.
You know, everybody was telling me we're going to kill it. I just didn't believe it.
Yeah,
I didn't
I
believe you
understand.
guys.
I
And
understand.
what did we end up doing?
Killing it.
Killing it.
It's still going up. It's still
It's
going
still
up.
going up. So we are almost at $3,000, which is almost 200% of our goal. And I'm going to actually, you and I were discussing stretch goals earlier today.
Yes, we were.
And so I have the graphic here for a stretch goal.
And entice everyone so they can see what
Yeah.
happens when they get us to there.
So first was, just make goal. We did that. So everybody gets, if you're digital, you get a digital version. If you're physical, you get a physical 11 by 17 pinup drawn by my daughter. We already showed it on the feed of a Tyr and I really looking on. Yeah, Tyr and I looking on as the world is destroyed.
Yep. Like what? We're on the Dispatch though, so we're good.
Yeah, that's probably how it would happen anyway. So 2,500 stretch goal was we were going to launch the ICD Underground with Tyr and Scorpio, a new pre-recorded show. More details about that in our social media feeds. And so that's going to happen. Logo's already designed by Tyr himself, and Scorpio and Tyr are working on time to record the preview episode of that. So we're going to have that available before the end of this campaign, the preview episode.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be dope. I'm excited for it because it's the idea we had. Like it's gonna be dope. It is. This book picked out, which I got. Nah, I'll keep it for the show. I won't mention.
Yeah, keep it for the show. Don't spoil it.
Yeah, we already got that picked out. So, you didn't tell them about the other ones though.
Oh, I'm pulling it up. I was letting you talk. I didn't want to cover your face.
Oh,
so we are only $17 away from our $3,000 stretch goal, which is a pinup by Dennis Valencia. He's working on that for us, and it's going to be something cool, something I think kind of sci-fi themed. I've not seen much of it yet, so I'm just letting him do his artistic thing, and can't wait to see it. But it's going to be a pinup. Again, if you're digital backer, you're going to get that digitally. If you're physical, you can get that physically. The $4,000 one is one I'm kind of really excited about.
Same.
So we've been doing these indie comic throwdowns for a while now, and we have several pieces of art that we got permission from the creators to make into throwdown trading cards for the Kickstarter.
And the dope part about that is like people who back the Kickstarter will get your cards, so they'll learn about your comics and your characters and things like that. So for everybody who gave us permission to use their characters, thank you for that. I mean, it's publicity and marketing for you.
100%.
Yeah, I don't think any of my characters have been in a throwdown yet.
Not yet.
So, but I'm good with that. We got the Sovereign Verse over there, which is building up to something. Maybe we'll talk about it over the show. I don't know.
Maybe.
Like, we'll see. We'll see. That's building up to something. So
yeah.
But
so then if we make 4,500, and I don't know, could surprise me. I don't know. If we get to 4,500, we're going to add another trading card. It's going to be a special edition Brett versus Tyr Indie Comic Throwdown trading card. We're going to commission a picture and add that as a special edition trading card.
Exactly. So we'll have to figure out what powers we want. I think I'm just going to go with the powers of like there's one thing that I've always told myself as far as if I had powers, which one of them would be the powers of the imagination, which for
Right.
me that would be dangerous as hell. And like what I always thought about it was like every character I can imagine, like I would get their power set. So like all of my
Hmm.
characters, I could just switch through their power sets and stuff like that, which would be dangerous. But I
Yeah.
think I'm gonna keep it simple and just go with Rhaenys's power set, which is
I knew you were
kinetic.
going to say that.
Yeah,
I knew
yeah,
you were going to say that.
yeah. Everybody says I look like him, so I'm
You
like,
do.
yeah.
You
So,
do.
and I really, honestly, I didn't even do it on purpose. Like when I first created Rhaenys, he went from having a bald head to having like just a fade cut, and then I decided to give him locks because my little brother had locks before I did. Um,
Ah.
and he used to tell me about all the crap that he would go through, with job interviews and things like that
Hmm.
because he had locks. And I was like, it'd be dope to have a black character who has locks, a black superhero with locks and everything like that. So that was the reason why I gave him locks. And then slowly, everybody's like looking at my banner, like when I go to concerts, is that you? Yeah. I think my artist, maybe Mark, like looked at me and was like, I got it. so so it's kind of hilarious,
That is.
but
So
yeah,
yours would
so
be gosh, I don't know what my powers would be.
yeah.
But I'll have to think on it. But we got to
Yeah.
get to that $4,500 level.
We do.
So
I think we'll get there. Like everybody's been supportive with this, and again, we do thank y'all. Thank y'all so much for
yeah.
that. Like all
Yeah.
the support. Like it's been crazy. It's
And
been
to
crazy.
everybody who told me we were going to crush it and I didn't really believe you, I'm very
Yeah.
sorry for that.
Yeah. Shame on you, Brett.
I know. Shame on me.
I was one of them. Whenever you're like, "Oh, we're gonna do good," I'm like,
You were.
"Come on, we're gonna do great."
I was so worried about setting that goal at 1,500. It's like maybe we should only do 500, even though that won't cover nonprofit status.
Nah, nah, nah.
Oh,
Setting it at 1,500 was perfect. And I had no doubt that we were gonna reach it. Like I knew we were.
yeah.
I knew I was backing anyway, like that.
And you tried for number one, but
Yes, I did.
didn't get it.
I got
Didn't
beat by
get it.
who? I think it was
Godhood.
Godhood got one.
Yeah.
And was it
I
Catalyst?
sent you the list.
I think it was
I don't know. It was
Catalyst.
Godhood, Wingless, you and Cadless were all in the first 4 or 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was crazy.
Which is dope. Which is dope. And then I got
Yeah.
beat again with John
By
Schlimm's Kickstarter by you. I was like, yes, I would get one on this. Nope. Number 2. Like, damn it.
Sorry about that.
slow ass Mac. Like, for a new one already.
See, I have a Windows from like 10 years ago that's still going strong. So don't tell me about it.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing right now is I'm going through and I'm sharing the feed to different groups. If you're out there watching this, you please share the feed, share it to your profile, share it to groups. Just share it because we're talking Kickstarter tonight. We're reminiscing about the start of Indie Comics Dispatch.
Yes.
We're interviewing each other. It's a night of just Brett and Tier, which we haven't done since our preview episode.
Exactly. Like it's been a year.
It has.
Since it's like to include your very first interview, which was
yeah,
which I don't know if a lot of people know that or not.
Very first interview. In fact, I was so nervous. I was like, "This dude's gonna tell me no."
Not me. I'm not me.
You didn't. You're so nice.
No, I'm not that. I'm not that type of indie creator. Like some of them, your head. Head gets too big. Some of them out their heads are really, really,
but not our fans. Our fans are awesome.
Yeah, our fans are cool. Of course, I was gonna say yes. I'm like, what? You want to interview me? Sure, hell yeah. Like, no one's ever asked me. Like, I think before you, the only other interview, I've done like news article interviews, and then I was on the actual news twice. And
I just want to give a quick
podcast.
shout out. Stacey Robinson is in the IG chat. So if you haven't noticed, we are on Instagram again tonight. We're going to be on Instagram through all of May to kind of doubling up our stream. Stacey, thank you for supporting. Stacey Robinson got a Indie Comics Dispatch shirt as part of his reward. So we thank you for that.
Sweet.
Sorry, Tier. Go.
No, it's
What?
fine. It's fine. I was saying they're gonna dig the shirts.
Yeah,
They're gonna dig
this
the
is one
shirts.
of them.
Yep.
And
And
then
I wish I had on the other one, but I don't. But
because I
if you
haven't
see,
sent it to you yet,
yeah, it's
I'm
okay. It's
sorry.
okay. I mean, I owe you a shirt too. Like one of the,
Yeah.
I still got to find out. Like, do you want the? It's hot in Georgia. You probably don't want
No.
this one. That's the reason why I did one that was like Lawn John
Hmm.
because it gets fucking cold here even in the summer. so, so but yeah, I got to send one to you, and Catalyst, and
Hmm.
other folks. So it's all good. It's
So
all
you were
good.
saying before you didn't really you hadn't really done much interviews, but you had
Right.
done a local show and
Right. Like I did one for Urban Twist. I think I did at that time I had done two for Urban Twist. So written interviews. Um I don't want to forget anyone. I think I might have done another written interview. I know I did a written interview. Did I do one for you? No, I didn't do one for you. I
mm-mm.
don't think. Not at the time.
Well,
But then I did.
we did a mixed thing. We you actually
Yeah.
did write some questions out for me.
Hmm. And then we did the show. And then before you, I did the show with Pop and Anime Comics, who they're pretty. They've been doing like his whole goal was I think to like get over 100 in a year or something like that, and I think he
Hmm.
made it.
Awesome.
So I was on this show like 2 or 3 times. But before our interview, I was only on it once, and that was like my first actual live slash podcast type interview. And then you were number two, and who knew? Year later,
Who
we'll
knew?
be
Who knew?
hosting the show together.
Hosting the show. So Jerry just commented that it was me that he was nervous before his Kickstarter dropped, and I told him to stop. You're going to get funded,
Yeah.
which is funny. That
I,
maybe
yeah,
everybody goes through that before Kickstarter. I don't
exactly.
know.
Yeah, and you told me the same thing. You told me the same
Did
thing
I?
for Stars. You told me the same thing for Cyber Team, and she won. You were like, "Don't worry, you'll be fine." I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I always feel like I cut it close, and then at the end, everybody's like,
Right?
"Boom!" And then it just starts going up from there. So that's the reason why I'm always thankful to the Soverse fam and crew,
Mm-hmm.
Because they always come through. And you're
Mm-hmm.
part of that. You're part of the Soverse
Yeah.
fam, so the higher tier of that. So
That's awesome. So tonight we're just kind of going to reminisce about how the dispatch got started. We got some questions lined up for each other. We've seen the questions, but we have not talked about our answers for the questions, and so we're going to do that. I have Concrete Comics just commented in the Instagram chat. I've watched Brett grow from a baby. LOL. Lonzo really has.
yeah, he's been around for a bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
In fact, that's kind of where Concrete was one of my first comics that I came across in the indie world. And they kind of, I've said it before, they're kind of slightly responsible for the dispatch, drawing me into the indie comic world. But we'll actually get to that. We'll get to that later. It was Concrete, Wingless, and Sovereign were my first three, and then followed closely by Catalyst, actually. Yep.
That's the pillars right there. No.
I know, right?
The pillars of ICD.
Stacy, don't worry, I haven't forgotten about you. We're going to get you on the show. Stacy Robinson, everybody has a new book out called Across the Tracks. It just dropped yesterday. My copy was delayed in transit somewhere by Amazon, so I'm still waiting on my copy, Stacy.
I don't know, like, can we go to shipping woes right quick? Because I know for me, this is what I've noticed. Whenever I ship to Georgia, Washington, D.C., New Jersey, and New York, I don't know what the hell happens. Like it goes down a dark tunnel.
Yep.
And
anytime I have a
out.
package that goes through Philadelphia, it gets delayed for like 2 weeks. I swear to God.
It's like it gets there, and then somebody's like, I get to it when I can. And it's just there. Or they'll send it back. And then it does the whole around the US thing.
Aaron, you're wrong. So Aaron just commented on Instagram. He said, Instagram, I remember the first time Brett and I talked, he wanted to do something for Welcome to Everville. I think it was our first ever interview. That was the first time we talked officially about the dispatch, but I actually ordered some digital books from you, Aaron. I don't know if it was you who replied. It might have been Matt. And there was something wrong with the website and the delivery, which is fixed now. Go order comics from catalystcomics.com. And you had to send them to me through the mail.
Well,
that was technically the first time we talked, Aaron.
That's dope. That's Aaron for you. Like, oh, the digitals don't work here. I'm seeing your physicals. That's what I'm
No, he
talking
didn't
about.
send me physicals.
Oh, he
He's
didn't
not
send you
that
physicals?
cool.
Oh,
No,
he's not that cool?
he just sent me the direct
Man,
download links.
yeah, I was get, boosting you up.
so, I talked a little bit about the kind of first comics that I came across in the indie
Mhm,
comic world. First
mhm,
modern indie comics I came across.
mhm.
In my opinion, indie. But before, a lot of people don't know this. Before the Dispatch was the Dispatch, this was actually just my comic nerd Instagram account. Like that's where it started. Like
Yeah.
me posting pictures of my local from my local comic book shop of my new comic book day pickups.
Yeah, because
That
the
was
name was even different too. It was like
yeah.
Superman something,
It
Superman
was
something. Yeah.
Heroes of Krypton.
Yeah, Heroes of Krypton. Yep. Yep. I remember that because I looked at some old posts and I
Yeah.
remember still see the name and I'm like, that was his old name. What's the first name? Yep. So that's that's wild.
Yep.
That's wild. And now we're here.
Now we're here. And
Yeah.
so so crazy. So I can't remember your questions and what comes next. So I think we need to. Why don't we get
Uh-oh.
to some of your questions? Because I think
Hmm?
your questions might start guiding some of our time together.
Yeah. Okay. So my first question for you, Britt, was
Hmm.
what drew you into indie comics? And I know you already started getting on the answer for that.
Yep. um. So. Yeah, Concrete commented that he remembers it was a Superman account. It was a Superman account, and so
Yeah.
then I started. And then yeah, Lonzo asked me early on about getting my son some Acolyte stuff because I was primarily a Superman collector.
Mhm.
That's where I was at. I collected Superman stuff since I was in 5th grade. And people know this. It's like if you follow me anywhere, you know this. I have five children that are black, two white children and 5 black children. And my wife and I went through a lot of awakening as we welcomed black children into our home because my wife and I are both white. And changed our life completely, turned everything upside down to make sure that we were a supportive, welcoming, open space for any child that came into our home. And so we were foster parents for a number of years. And then we ended up adopting. And so now we have 7 kids, and that's why I'm tired all the time. But um when I started this Superman account, I was just posting Superman. My son would browse Instagram with me looking at pictures of Superman, and he eventually pointed out to me, he was 2 years ago, he was 4 at the time. He was eventually like, Dad, like none of these dudes are black, like they're all white. And Stacy said, "You got the Wu-Tang Clan in your house." I do, Stacy. um, and so he was like, none of these. Because we talk about colors of skin and we encourage, that blackness is beautiful, all that stuff. And so he saw me looking at my comic book and was like, "Dad, these are all white dudes." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Shit, you're right."
Where's
Like,
your black characters, Dad?
yeah. So that started me following different hashtags, Black Comics with an X. It sent me down a path of finding the work of John Jennings, Stacey Robinson, which eventually led me to the indie comic realm. And I say this all the time, that when you start looking into Black comics, it very quickly leads you to indie comics, because
Yeah.
mainstream comics, Marvel, DC, even Image to a large degree, don't have great representation. The bulk of their heroes are white. And
Exactly.
so
Which, and the
go ahead.
crazy part too about that is like they have good black characters, they just don't use them.
Mm-hmm.
Or when they do use them, they nerf them.
Yeah, they do it in a stupid way.
Like if anybody from DC is watching, like seriously, you can read my comics.
Mm-hmm.
I will come and write Black Lightning. I will come and write Mr. Terrific, who is my favorite. Like
Mr. Terrific, yeah, that's a good one.
That's the reason why I kind of get angry too sometimes whenever I hear and I know a lot of people, I fight with a lot of people on this too, because they're like, but it's representation. Like when I hear Black Superman, I'm like, okay, I don't want a Black Kal-El. We have Val Zod, and then we have the other one too, who's the president. Like, we don't need a Black Calico. I'm
Nope.
like, use those two.
Yeah.
Give those two
Yeah.
recognition. And then I'm like, then you got Vixen, you got Mr. Terrific, you got,
Mm-hmm.
you got Still, you got, like I said, Black Lightning, who had a
Mm-hmm.
show. Like, give them
Yeah.
movies. Like, Vixen
Yeah.
can have a dope ass comic if they did it right. Like,
If they did it right
dope
is the
comic,
thing. Yeah.
dope comic.
Yeah.
Like her whole heritage. Like they touch on it in the show in Legends of Tomorrow. I think in like season I think I want to say season 1, season 2, they kind of touch on it about the different totems and stuff like that. And I'm like, you put
Mhm.
it in a show, but no one decided to do a arc or a couple of arcs
Nope.
in the comics for
Nothing.
this. Like you just back burner. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's
Mm-hmm.
crazy to me. Like I'll write Vixen too. Like I have no problem. Like her heritage and stuff is dope. And then you got Wonder Woman's twin,
Yeah.
everybody knows
Nubia.
who that is, Nubia.
Yeah.
Beautiful Nubia. Like, give her own title. That I mean, she
Mm-hmm.
has something now, but I mean, give her something along the
Yeah.
lines of what Wonder Woman has, not
Exactly.
what she has now. But
So
that's
John
like I
from
said. That's go ahead.
John
I'm
from
sorry.
McKay's comic. No, John from McKay's comic said the milestone line of comics, and that's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's really the only thing that I kind of knew,
Mhm.
John, when I started researching. I mean, I knew other ones, but as far as like black centered titles and comics, that's all I knew until I started kind of going down this rabbit hole, which led me to indie comics,
Oh,
which is why at Indie Comics Dispatch we believe in a bigger, better, more diverse indie comic
exactly.
community, because a lot of corners of the indie
Exactly.
comic community still aren't very diverse.
Yeah. Very
No.
true. Like
Yep.
even it even shows in the support too. Is like there's a lot of from what I've noticed, there's a lot of clicks. We all know this. There's a lot of niches.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot of different things. And that's the reason why, even with my comics, like I feel myself like sometimes falling in a hole because it's like feels like I have the diversity, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
people are like, but you're not telling the everyday story, and I'm like, there's 75,000 black creators doing that right now. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do something different. I'm not gonna do the same thing they're doing, because then it's gonna get to me as like I've been like I think I've told you this before. I've been writing since I was in the first grade, and I've never written stuff that like I never looked at my classmate and was like, "Oh, what story are you writing?" and then wrote the
Right.
same thing or something or a spin off of that, or
Right.
I always try to come up with my own thing. So I even do that in comics. I come up with my own thing. I don't knock the people who write the stories that they write, because we
Mm-mm.
need, I mean, not only do you need diversity and cultures and
Yeah.
ethnicity and nationalities and religion, you also need diversity in storytelling.
Yeah.
So
And to
it's
write
like,
what you know, and if you
yeah,
don't know certain corners, you shouldn't write about that. But
exactly.
yeah, to try and
Unless you
push it.
research. Unless you research.
Yeah,
Because I know I
exactly.
have like because I have like a lot of let me see, they were pushing the new Naomi character.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that for the show. That's the reason
Yeah.
why I got the 9.8 from Encased Comics. Thank you.
Stacy says that his milestone was his first internship. That's awesome, Stacy. Yeah, we're
Oh
getting you on
wow.
this show soon.
That is, yeah, that is freaking amazing.
Yeah.
I looked up the milestone a lot, and that's kind of like how I thought of Sovereign whenever I decided to
Mm-hmm.
start it. But I'm gonna not go fully into that because I think one of your questions
It
actually
is. It
goes
is.
into all of that stuff. So
So let's take a departure there. So that got me into indie comics, and then
mhm,
I don't think this is your next question, but if it is, I guess I'm answering in advance.
mhm.
Um, I just started thinking, I have a marketing background. I've worked in nonprofits my whole life, so I'm never looking to like make money, because people in nonprofits don't make anything. Um,
No,
um,
it's with the kindness of
and
their heart.
yeah, yeah. So real quick, I do want to Specs
Mhm.
Thompson commented in the chat. He has a Kickstarter that launched today, Legacy of the View #3. Go
Oh,
support
sweet,
it. Yeah,
sweet.
go support it. It's a good series. I told him, like, it kind of gave me that Peter Parker kind of vibe, teenage kind of hero.
Oh, awesome.
But he does in such a fresh and unique way. And you got to read at least through issue 2 to get it going. So guys, go support that Kickstarter.
Oh, see, evening, Quentin. Evening,
um,
Quentin's
so
cool. Quentin's the
I
dude.
started thinking, like I knew you, I knew the guys at Concrete,
Mhm.
like knew. I didn't know you guys, but I
You were getting to
followed
know
you.
us.
Yeah, we're getting to know. And I thought, what can I do? And I was trying to find a creative outlet for myself during COVID. And I thought, well, what if I wrote blog articles about indie comics? And that led me to another nerd news site that 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 we're not going to mention.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
that's where the Indie Comics Dispatch kind of started, was partnering with this other nerd news site, because I didn't think I could do it on my own.
mm,
And it turns out I couldn't do it on my own. Tier's been here with me the whole time.
yeah.
But
Yeah. It's been fun. And
it
for y'all
has
to
been.
know, yes, I have been here the whole time.
He,
Like we were like when he says the whole time, we mean from that nerd group
yeah, to now.
the whole to now,
Um,
the whole time.
and you were my first interview at that nerd group, and then
Mhm.
shortly after that you joined the nerd group,
Yep.
and then things didn't go as planned, and so we both left that nerd group.
Yep.
um
Which I joined initially, which I think I might have told you this, but I don't know. But I joined initially because I liked what you were doing. So it was cool to meet the other person.
yeah,
And then I was just like, well, what can I bring to it? Because I mainly joined because you were there and you were who I met first. I like what you were doing. And I'm like, okay, maybe I can be part of this too.
yeah.
And
And if you
that's the
remember
story
back
of the
to,
past.
yeah, if you remember back to that, he's not a, that person is not a bad
No,
person.
they aren't.
um
They aren't at all.
it's just we didn't have
It was a creative differences.
yeah, we just weren't seeing eye to eye on some pretty basic stuff, and realized quickly Tier and I couldn't stay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so we left, and there was like a good week there where I was just kind of like, fuck it. Not gonna do anything.
I'm doing.
Yeah.
No, you're not. You're not
No, I'm
doing.
not.
And it was like, hey, so when we're starting the show.
Yeah. And then Tier and I started talking, and he's like, I left after you left. I was like, oh. And so Tier kind of encouraged me to kind of bring it back, and to keep going, and to not let it affect me. And so the dispatch kind of launched officially. Tier and I started making plans for really what I mean, Indie Comics Dispatch version 2 kind of launched with
Mhm.
broadcasts from the dispatch. That's kind of, I
Yeah,
consider it a whole new era in what we've
it
been
was.
doing.
It
Because that's when
was.
we launched the website with reviews. That's when we launched the podcast. That's when a lot of things started.
Yeah.
So
And the naming, the names we went through, like it's like we landed on that and we were like, that's it, that's the one.
yep,
Like it was a
yep.
lot of
We had a
it
lot
was
of
a lot
weird
of
ones to begin with. To think
yeah,
back on some
yeah.
of the names we Aaron said he
I,
sucks us all in eventually. I do.
yep.
But
It's a black hole.
we started with me doing Indie
Mhm.
Comic Minutes, and we've grown to a team of
Yeah,
16 people, I think it is, that
yeah.
contribute in various ways to the dispatch, which is fucking remarkable for a year.
It is. It's crazy. All of that in a year. And it's just and I think for me the dope part of it is that for the most part, I don't think we've had any infighting, which is amazing. Like we've
No.
had disagreements and
Yeah.
we handle it like adults. We have a disagreement and then we either agree to disagree or we come to a mutual understanding, which is that next step of agree to disagree. Because a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
think agree to disagree is the top notch. Nah, you
Mm-hmm.
working through it and figuring out a common ground is the top part. That's the icing on the cake. But we haven't had any infighting. Everyone gets along.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the dope part,
Yeah.
and everybody loves what they're doing. And that
Yeah.
it's just fun.
Yeah. It's so
So
much fun. And we've made, I mean, some great friends. Like, I mean, like, who would have imagined a year ago that Scorpio or Quentin,
mhm.
some guy on the West Coast, some guy in Tampa would,
And down there with Florida man,
yeah.
beware Florida man,
Malachi,
Scorpio.
Malachi. No, y'all need to duke it out. Give him them fisticuffs.
Nah,
Who
I,
would have imagined that we would have Malachi Bailey writing casting calls
yeah,
for us every? I
right,
mean,
right.
what the
And doing
hell?
a dope job. And then
Yeah,
the team on the throwdown, like that's like three
yeah,
folks on the throwdown.
yeah.
So I
So
mean, you got the
yeah, the artist, you got
yeah,
Brian, and then the
hmm
two creators that are pouring into it. I mean, like,
yep.
that's amazing.
It's it's crazy. It's crazy. And like for me, I try to concentrate on the show and reviews, and then of course managing editor, which
Yeah,
I think that was a secret for a bit. Now it's
that was
not.
a secret. It's
Uh,
not anymore.
it's not anymore. And then the new show with Scorpio, which is going to be,
Yeah,
I don't know if giving me a Scorpio show is a good idea.
that's why we're doing it. Sometimes
Oh
things just
man,
happen.
Yep.
So let's
Thanks.
turn to you for a minute, though.
Mhm, mhm.
And I you were the first interview because you seemed like just such a nice dude.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lonzo having or Concrete having everybody at Concrete seemed overwhelming to try to figure out how to interview them. Um, Brian
They got the whole
Wingless,
they got the basketball team over there.
they
That's
do, and
concrete
I had no idea how we
concrete
were going to do
basketball
that
team.
at first. And Hey Ruben, how you doing, man?
What's going on,
Um,
Ruben?
and so that seemed overwhelming. Brian, it's not a secret. Brian looks a little grumpy. He scared me at first. Sorry, Brian. Um, so I went with Tier. And so you were the first one
I
on the
appreciate it.
show.
I
Um,
appreciate it.
so I had ordered your comics. I messaged you. I think we've talked about this before on the show. I
Mhm,
messaged you, and I wanted to support you in the best way possible. And I asked you, what's a better support for you, ordering the books digitally or physically?
mhm.
At that time, I didn't realize that most creators just have a stash of physical books that they need to get gone. That they've
Yeah.
already put money in. They need to recoup that money on. And
So
so
we can get more books.
yeah. And so you said, physical. So it's like, cool, send me some physical. And so I ordered about half your titles at that
Mhm.
point. But what was the moment when you were like, you know what, I'm going to make a fucking comic? Like,
Oh man. I think the moment when it hit, I was still in the military. And it was weird because I was in my office, and I was still trying to battle over my head, like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Like, I have like I've said before, Brian has a heart. Yeah, Brian does have a heart of gold. We've talked to DMs. He's such a nice guy. Such a nice
Brian is
guy.
such a nice guy. Like, seriously.
But I had started writing those stories on my 15-month deployment, which is 15 months in Iraq. Like, you need to
Wow.
do something. Like, you can't. The only time I left the base was when I was flying to another one in the helicopters. So it was like I needed something to clear my mind. But so I started writing the story with Infinite Rain. I didn't know where it was gonna go. Like, I was like, well, maybe I should do novels. Maybe I should just turn this into a novel because I had like my military green book filled like front to back. I had like 2 or 3 of those filled front to back, just nothing but stories. And one day I was just like, well, let me draw them. And I started drawing them, and I had it just like figured. I was like, well, maybe I should do comics. And I was like, yeah, that might be easier. I don't know why that I thought that like I should have went. I mean, honestly, if I honestly tell you the truth, if I were to go back, I would still do comics, but I would have told myself like, hey, save up some freaking money. This bonus you're about to get for re-enlisting, put that shit in stocks. Go buy
Mm-hmm.
you some freaking Bitcoin because I think at that time that's when Bitcoin was you know, kind of figuring out what it wanted to be, but wasn't
Mm-hmm.
really making anything. I would have said if I can go back in the past, I would tell myself that, like, because you're going to be spending a lot.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that's when I realized it, like that 15-month deployment, and then I came back and then deployed like literally. I think it was like 9 or 10 months later, deployed again. And then I was like, okay, I got to do something. And then before that
Mm-hmm.
deployment, I was just like sitting in the. No, it was after that deployment. No, before that deployment actually. I was see those deployments mess up your memory. I was I was like sitting in the office, especially when they're close together. But I was like sitting in the office, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna do comics. I'm gonna do comics. Now I need a name. And then I went through all the names and stuff, and that was like in 2009. And I ended up landing on Sovereign Comics, and that's when I was like, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. Like, I have this mantra or method that I go by that I'm like, once I name it, I can't get rid of it. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's it. Like, once I name it, it has life.
Mm-hmm.
So then, and once I figured out the name, it was like Sovereign Comics. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do comics. And then I started going with that. I mean, it never hit that I was actually making comics until Cypher Team issue 1. Like, when that was done, that I was like, holy shit, I'm really doing it. Like, this is the flagship. It's really there. And that was like 2000, I think 2017, like 2016.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so But
That's
yeah,
really
that was
cool.
that was that was when I figured it out. I think it was like 2007, 2008. It was when I figured it out. And then I deployed again like 2010. Like it was literally like so. But yeah, that's when I figured it out because I was like, I'm not doing this crap anymore. I deployed too many
Mhm.
times. I think I
Mhm.
deployed 3 or 4 times. I was like, no more, no more.
So other than the money and not realizing maybe how much you needed to make this work, because a lot
Mhm.
of people don't realize how expensive art is. Um,
Yeah, it's super expensive.
what has
Um,
been your biggest struggle as a creator?
finding I'm not gonna say dope artists because there are a lot of dope artists out there,
Mhm.
but finding artists that I felt fit what I wanted Sovereign to look like.
Mm.
That was the hardest thing. Um, so I went through like I was gonna draw everything myself, but I am a very creative person, and literally by when I say I'm a very creative person, like I will literally have a conversation with someone. Like I won't be surprised if another idea for a story pops up in my head tonight. Like, like, like that's how creative I am, and I realized that I couldn't draw these books because I start drawing one and then another one will pop up. And after a while, like, Infinite Rain was the first one, the Cypher Team was after that. Then all these other books popped up. And I'm like, there's no way in hell that I can draw all this, like this is not gonna work. And yes, for people who don't know, I am an artist. So I'm not just a writer. I do also draw. Um, but so I started looking for artists, and looking for artists ran me into some crowds that kind of made things a little discouraging, to say the least, because I ran into a lot of people who said they had your best interests, but they would try to uh shiftly, I guess, try to take your IP. Like there was one group that's the reason why I'm opposed to groups. Like I know a couple of groups, like I think Sandbox and Indie Comics Alliance wanted to invite me in, and I was just like, no. And it's not like I don't like it's not that I don't like the
Yeah,
individuals
those
that
are
are in
two
there. Like,
good
yeah,
groups.
they're two good groups. You're doing great things,
Mhm.
and I like the people that are in there. But I said no because of my past and what I went through. Uh, and like I said, the one group that I was part of, like eventually, initially, it was like, yeah, you're all your own thing. And then the dude gave us contracts, and it was like, you got to put,
Mm.
such and such presented, that I presented your comic, and I'm taking the top percentage, and I'm just like, fuck no,
What?
dude, I'll do it myself. So I was like, you're not even paying for anything. Like I could see if you were
Yeah.
paying for my books to get made
Right.
and paying my artists, but you're not doing anything. I'm doing everything. So that kind of put my kind of put me in a bad taste for dealing with folks. So like that was my hardest part, dealing with that, finding people I can trust.
Mhm.
And then eventually I met my friend Thomas.
Mhm.
And he was a person that I could trust. He is the creator for Raxon Universal Dominion. So if you like mech stories, I mention him a lot, and it's
Mhm.
because we've been friends like as far as like creating for a long time. He's actually created like if you read Cypher Team issue 1, the aircraft that you see in that,
Yeah.
he designed those for me.
Cool.
Um, if you read Arisha Exos, all of the
Mhm.
mechs in there, he designed those for me.
Nice.
So we've been friends for a while. So like he was the person I could trust. And then I met my lead artist, Mark. At the time, I don't think his brother was coloring, or maybe he was just starting. But I met Mark, and Mark became a person I could trust. Like here we are,
Mm.
almost a decade later, and I'm still,
That's
well, not
cool.
almost a decade, but it's almost like I think I met him in 2014, 2015. So yeah, almost a decade later.
Yeah, getting there.
Um, yeah, it's getting there, and like he's my lead artist. Him and his brother, they're my lead team. That was always my hardest part is finding individuals that I can trust, finding individuals who um, looked at Sovereign Comics with the same vision and uh, ideas that I had. Finding
Mhm.
people that weren't going to try to take my IP. It's always crazy, but like after a while, like I started learning people, and then I started meeting other cool people like LaShawn Colvin. Like me and her have
Mhm.
been friends for a long, again, almost a decade for a long time. So that was the hardest part, just finding folks that I could trust. And now it's like I'm starting to meet new artists. You know, like the one who drew the chibis for me, Darren Reinhardt.
Yeah.
Find him. we got some other things planned. Like I actually started looking at more of his art, and so like he's gonna be on the book. Then there's Serge de Lima, who's on
Mm-hmm.
Stop, and I'm actually gonna put him and Alan on another book. So they're gonna be on 2 books because I can't put everything on Mark. Like, like I
Poor
can't put
Mark.
everything on Mark and Marvin, you know. And Damone Emerson. He's the one who actually draws Orisha Exos, and he's another individual that I can trust. But as far as like the art side. So it took a while to get there.
Mm-hmm.
The cosplayers that I work with, I trust all of them. Like they're so dope. Like they help so
You have
much.
a
They're like
good
the street
network of
team. So
cosplayers.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They're so dope. Like they are so excited about what's going on and about the characters, about seeing things grow. Um, it was one of those things that is, and I don't say this to discourage anybody who's gonna get into comics. It just takes a bit. Like it took a
Mm-hmm.
while for me too. And like I said, one of the first individuals that I met that I could really, really trust was Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, we started moving on. I think Thomas actually introduced me to Mark.
Mm.
So from there, we started, I started learning and realizing, oh, okay, you're that type of person. No, thank you. So for people who talk to me, like if I seem off, not standoffish,
I don't think you ever
it,
seem that
you
way.
know, I try to be very, very, and that's honestly another reason why I'm very, um, why I was very, adamant about helping people, especially if they
Mm-hmm.
didn't know what they were doing or if they were new, because of the crap that I went through.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why people come and ask questions. I'm like, yeah, do this, this, and this. Well, I was like that until people started, you know,
Mm-hmm.
trying that shit again. And so I was like, yep, can't be that way. It can't be helpful anymore now. You did it to you. Hey, it can't give you over decades worth of experience because
Yeah.
now you're being a douche.
Speaking of not being a douche,
Mhm.
we have $17 until we reach our next stretch goal, which is a pinup by Dennis Valencia. Every back will get it. You back digitally, you get it digitally. You back physically, you get it physically. $17. Somebody out there watching this has
Yes.
$17 that they
Yes.
can give, or maybe there's two of you out there that has like $9 each. Hey,
Yeah.
go
There's a
for it,
9 book tier.
right?
There's a 9 book tier up there. Get us to
There's
17. Get us
there's
past
a
that 17
10,
mark.
but yeah, you know.
Hey, that's
It's just
even better. Get 2 of you to get the 10 one. That's $20. Then we're
that's
really over.
$20. Then we're really over. So if you're out there watching, like, and you're thinking, hey, I haven't supported the Indie Comics Dispatch Kickstarter yet. I like what they do. Go support.
On the support.
What I'm most excited about is that we still have 6 spots open for you have the bridge tier, which you get to come on
Yeah.
the show. You get to be on this show. You get to pick the topic.
Yes.
You get to be a guest on that show, and then we fill in a couple other guests, but the topic and the show is kind of yours to do what you want
Mhm.
with. We will help you plan that around a campaign if you have a campaign going on. And
Mhm.
so those are $65. I know that's a lot, but we've had people give a couple $100 to Kickstarters while we're on air because they see somebody
Yeah.
on air. Scorpio has had great success with that. So
Exactly.
you
Scorpio's a big
like
one.
it might be worth it. It might be a good investment.
I think that actually leads to my next question for you, which is
Yeah.
what would be your dream show and host?
Like host or guest?
Well, guess your dream
Okay.
show and guess. Yeah.
Dream show. I really loved my one-on-one interviews that I used to do with creators. It's just a timing thing. Again, I have 7 kids.
Yep.
Finding the time to do those consistently on the weekends was getting harder and harder. And so we have some special edition ones coming up. I'm going to try to do one a month. But
Sounds
dream.
like a stretch goal.
Yeah, there you go. I'm going to do it regardless, guys, but make it a stretch goal anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
Get us the 5,000 and see Brett bring back his individual interviews.
So dream goal I think would be a one-on-one interview, and it's something that couldn't happen anymore. Dwayne McDuffie.
Yeah.
Like it?
Yeah. I watched it's crazy. I watched it was honestly it was kind of eye-opening and I think motivated me a lot. Like I watched documentary about him where they were talking to his wife and talking to individuals that work with him, and then um, other individuals of Milestone and stuff like that. And I was just looking at, just listening to the things that they said about him and the way that he wanted Milestone to be, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, wow, that
Hmm.
feels very, 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 very dope. Like I'm going down that. Not saying I am doing, don't, I'm not doing that. Like I actually look up to him. He's one of the individuals. Like there's three individuals that I've always wanted to meet in life. It was him, Stanley, which I
Yep.
can't anymore, and Stephen King. So hopefully I meet Stephen King before
Hopefully.
he he
Hopefully.
did he you know. So he's the
Yep.
only one left alive that I can meet.
Yep.
So, but it's
Yep.
those three.
But that's a relief. When you sent me that question, I was thinking it through. The cool thing about the Dispatch is that it really grew out of my fanboying for you guys as creators. So like,
Mhm.
I have I've been able to meet so many cool people
Yeah,
that
yeah. There's a lot of
you
dope
know,
folks.
yeah, and become friends with so many cool people that I never thought. I've said it before. If you would have told middle school Brett that he would have been friends with comic creators and
Mhm.
interviewing them and shit, like I would have crapped my pants.
Yeah.
Like,
Same thing. I think if you would have told middle school me, hey, those stories you're writing, you're gonna make comics one day,
yeah,
I'd have been like, I'm not gonna make a comic. Or yeah, because I wasn't like a cocky kid either, even though I wrote. So I wouldn't have been like, I know. I'd have been like,
mm-hmm.
nah, nah, that's not gonna happen.
Nope.
So I get that.
So let's talk a minute about kind of the after we relaunched the
Mhm.
Dispatch, because things really took off
Yeah,
after that. We're
quickly.
at getting close to 5,000 follows on Instagram.
Mhm.
We're close to 1,000 on Facebook. And for me, 1,000 on Facebook's remarkable because we're not like a meme site. We don't like pump out memes and stuff. So
Yeah.
getting those follows, each one is hard earned.
Oh yeah.
And so um, I was just completely, totally surprised by the takeoff of it all.
Mhm.
I don't know if you were, but I
I
certainly was.
I kind of was because I know like I'm not the only one who's dealt with shiftiness in the indie comic world.
Right.
So I didn't know how people would uh approach us or accept us and
Yeah.
things like that. But so I was a little shocked, like when
Yeah.
folks just started piling on and wanted to see what was going on. I was shocked. What's up? Hold on, real
You
quick.
deal with that. I think the thing that surprised me most that we still deal with is
I
the
didn't think
number of review requests we get, because we get so many review requests. That is just insane. Alec on Instagram just said, "Not surprised. You guys are studs." I'm gonna take that to mean we look good.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna say, for
thank
once,
you.
also once in my life, Will Smith and I have the same body type. Did you see? Did you see his Instagram post?
No, I didn't. But
You need to look it up.
wait till he does a movie that requires him to have
I
muscles.
know, then I'm not gonna have his same body type anymore.
That's why like, Hollywood, man.
Yeah. So
But yeah,
the number of review requests we get, and we have so many guys out there listening. If we owe you a review, we're sorry. We have so
yeah,
many review requests that last year in particular, they just hit us so hard that we're still digging
yeah,
out.
we are.
And we try to do as many as we can. But there's that. I think that's what surprised me was the need for that in the indie
Yeah,
comic world.
yeah. Because I know, like for myself, like there's, and I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier, how there's still, even in the indie world, where we're all creating comics either because we love comics or
Mm,
because we feel like we're not getting what we want from the mainstream, so we decided to do it ourselves.
mm,
um there's still that divide where there's interview ports out there who
yeah.
see it and automatically get an ideal or get a bias and then don't
Yep.
interview it. I know when I sent out Temple High, which a lot of people say, and I think it's because they haven't read I almost think about issue 2 yet, but a lot of people say Temple High is probably one of my best books. And
Mm,
I sent it out to 10 reviewers and I only got one back, and that was Soda and Telepaths. that they were the only ones who even answered or reviewed.
Wow.
No one else said anything. So it's like it's crazy. So now that's why when we first met, because I think that happened. Yeah, that happened before we met.
Okay.
So like when we first met, and you were talking, you invited me on, and then you were, after the show we talked, and you were telling me what you're trying to do, and then meeting the other group and what they were doing, I was like, okay, this is dope. Like I mean, the other group really wasn't concentrated fully on indie. That was kind of our sector.
Yeah, that was your and I's expertise adding
yeah.
to that other nerd group site.
Exactly.
But,
So and like I said, that's the reason why I came on to that, because I knew what you wanted to do, and I wanted to do the same thing to help out indie. So I think as far as that with Indie Comic Dispatch, that is what is needed, because there isn't anything that fully concentrates on indie. Like everybody's still in mainstream, and I know, like for me, like mainstream's dope. There's a lot of mainstream characters and books that I read. Like I think the last mainstream book I bought was Justice League Dark, because I was really feeling the direction that story was going and everything that was happening with Detective Chimp. But since then, it's really just been indie books. Like that's all I've been buying, So to have that outlet that just reviews indie, interviews indie, promotes indie, it's needed. And I know I put out there that we're the only, and a lot of people,
yeah,
well, that's cocky.
we're not the only, but
we're not the only, but
we're one of the only that's solely dedicated to
solely dedicated to it. And that's what I mean when I say that, because a lot of people are like, you're not the only. I'm like, we're the only that's solely dedicated. There are others that are coming. Most recently, one of the interviews that I got that I need to email you, because he said that we could share that and post that to the site, that the interview they did for me.
Yes.
So with that interview, that's coming. Like he's trying to do the same thing, which is dope, because we need more of that, because a lot of people they'll touch indie, but then they'll jump back on, what does Superman do today?
Exactly. Like, people feel like they need that mainstream to pull people in, but there's such a broad audience out there for indie comics. You don't need it. And I don't want to I don't want more competition or anything, but
I mean,
but you don't need to comment on DC Marvel. You don't.
I think it would take a bit. I know I've talked to you before, but I feel like indie comics right now are what hip hop was in the late 80s and 90s, where it was a lot of people just doing their thing, starting their own labels, and that's
because
where
mainstream music had
now.
shut them out.
Had shut them out, so they started making their own things, and I think that's where indie comics is at right now. I know it started it in the 90s also as well, when hip hop was making that change. Indie comics did the same thing in the late in the late 80s and 90s, was doing the same thing, but then it kind of fell off. I mean, because this is an expensive industry, like it costs.
And there were no digital comics back then. It was print or nothing,
Exactly. So I think that digital standpoint is a lifesaver for us.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I do want to let people know we're going to start a retro look back article once a month. Quentin's going to write an article, and I'm going to write an article. We're both going to take different takes on it, about looking back at some of those early pioneers in indie comics that maybe don't get enough attention. So it's going to be
which
fun.
Would be dope.
Yeah,
which was doing. And don't forget, like I know Quentin's going to hit on them, because I know a lot of them are some of the ones that he really, really adores. But a lot of those ones that became mainstream were indie. One of the ones that I'm thinking of right off the top of my head is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That was indie as hell.
Yeah, like, even it was.
Like I think the name of the what was it, like Coffee Table Publishing or something like that. I think they named it. They named it something weird. Like it was. They were indie as hell. And then look at Ninja Turtles now. So
maybe we need a show called Indie as Hell.
There you go. Yeah, we should.
Maybe that's my dream show.
Yep. There you go. Digital is huge.
They are.
Exactly. Yeah. You're right, Quentin.
Mirage put out. Of
Oh,
course, Quentin would know.
Yeah. Of course he would know. And I know. I told you he's going to be on it. That's probably going to be his first. That's probably going to be his first article. I knew he would know. But yeah, it's man, that's the reason why I will always offer digitals for what Quentin said. And I know there's a lot of indies out there who they're like, oh, I'm not doing digital comics, and I'm like, why not?
Tier.
Like what?
Brian just commented, and he is correct. We just crossed
Oh
$3,000.
snap!
We are over 200% funded.
That is
Everybody's
crazy.
getting art by Dennis Valencia. It's gonna be amazing.
That is
It's
dope.
gonna
That
be
is dope.
amazing.
Thank you for the update, Brian. Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
That
Thank you
is
for
so
paying
dope.
attention to that. I kept
Yeah.
reloading earlier, and then I stopped, and that's when we hit it. Of course,
Mhm.
85 backers. Can you believe we have 85 backers?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I know you can. I can't. It's crazy. It's crazy. So another thing that we're doing with that is with with this extra money. I want to tell people what we're doing with the extra money real quick, because we had a goal. We set the goal at what it actually cost us. Kickstarter was going to take a fee, so we knew we didn't actually have
Mhm.
enough money with 1,500. So about
Right.
2,000 of it's going towards our three goals. So our three goals
Mhm.
are 501c3 status, so that we're
Mhm.
officially a nonprofit.
Yep.
And that way, when you give to the dispatch, it will become a tax write-off in the future. We can also get corporate partnerships, grants, all sorts of cool things that just help the indie comic community.
Mhm.
The second thing that we're getting because we're funded, is the Indie Comics Dispatch Awards. The ICD Awards,
Yes.
which is going to be a professional style award show that is dedicated to indie comics, and only indie comics.
Mhm. And
So
that's something we've been talking about
for a
for a
while,
while.
yeah,
Yeah.
we have, and now
Well,
we're
we've been talking
here.
about for a while. Yep. So that's
Dan
crazy. That's crazy.
Dan Schmidt says, want the t-shirts. We did too, Dan. That's honestly what we did
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Because we were like, we
Yeah.
want
We
some
got
dope
to.
shirts.
Mm.
Shout out to Aaron from Catalyst for recommending where to get them printed from. Long-term
Mhm.
goal is to have tier print them, but we got to get there
Yes.
first.
Yeah, we got to get there. Yes, I make my own shirts.
And then year two content for all of our podcasts and live streams. And so, StreamYard takes money. We want to start broadcasting to more destinations also. And so that
Mhm.
takes more money. And then
Yeah.
there's also other small subscriptions like Canva and all sorts of stuff that we subscribe to make things better. So that's where the bulk of the money is going. The first kind of $2,000 is going there.
Yep.
The next monies is going to go to helping ICD Underground get off the show.
Yes.
Quentin's Engine
Yes.
Works is going to get new motion graphics to open with. Scorpio's
Yes.
Kickstarter connection is getting new motion graphics to open with. We are going to set some aside so that we have a kind of emergency fund. Every nonprofit should
Mhm.
have one.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
And then my mind just went blank. The next thing down on the list that it covers is, I'd have to go back and look at my own post because my mind just completely blanked.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
It happens.
it does.
We have a lot going on.
We do.
Like, I know that, like today I was sitting here thinking about something. Like I was answering a question from Fox, which y'all should check her out too. She's very supportive of the indie comic community and
And
does
she
like
just
fan art and
commented on
stuff like
the
that.
Instagram stream, so she's out there watching right now.
Yep. She was asking a question about like our I guess like our hitting, like our guilty pleasure songs. And I couldn't think of the name to save my life. And it's one of my favorite songs. And everybody's like, why do you like that song? But it's Hey Joe from Jimi Hendrix. Like I love this song. Like it comes on and I have to put it on repeat and listen to it over and over and over again. But it was earlier because my mind was on other stuff and I couldn't think of that. I'm like, why can't I think of the song?
Quentin always coming through and saving me, supporting Kickstarters. That's the next thing down is supporting Kickstarters.
See,
we want to give. I know he's so awesome.
Quentin is that dude.
He is that dude. We want to give Scorpio a budget to support every Kickstarter that he has on the show, and we want I actually want to give Quentin a budget to order physical copies of indie comics to review, because Quentin's a big physical guy, for physical comics guy. Don't think poorly of Quentin for getting physical with people.
Sometimes you got to.
Sometimes you gotta. So we're gonna give him a budget to buy a certain number of comics every month, and that's also what our Patreon goal will go to. Again, being a nonprofit means we get to pour back into the indie comic community even more. And so we are making sure these funds go towards that, and supporting indie comics, indie comic creators. One of the things that I don't think we'll get to with this Kickstarter, this is a long-term goal, guys, but one of the things we really want to get to is being able to do creator grants. Like maybe you're out there and you don't know how you're going to fund your art, because we talked about earlier how expensive art is. Well, we want to eventually be able to give grants to fund that.
Can you all imagine that? Like,
no,
you don't get all that you like. Can you imagine that? Like us getting to the point where we can actually support the indie comic community by that,
to that level. Yeah,
to that level where we can give you grants.
Yeah,
like that's big. That's big moves. That's big moves.
Speaking of big moves here, 5 years from now,
yes,
where do you see yourself as a creator?
Man, 5 years from now, I see myself sitting at a table talking to Zack Snyder, drinking a whiskey, and talking about how Cypher Team the movie is going to do.
I like it.
I know everybody's like, Zack Snyder, really? I honestly think that man's vision, the way he does movies, would be perfect. Like, it might not work for DC, but it would be perfect for Sovereign Comics.
I didn't like him until not if I book him first.
Quentin, I can see Quentin having him on the show. Quentin, if you get him on the show, let him know about me.
I 100% agree with your director choice, because after seeing the Snyder Cut at JLA, I was like, damn, if Warner Brothers had just taken their damn hands off of him and let him do what he wanted to do, it would have been amazing.
Wow. And that's why I look at that. Like I've liked his stuff since, like, of course, like honestly, since the zombie movie that he made, not the Room one, but the first one, and then of course after that, so I like Sucker Punch. A lot of people didn't like Sucker Punch. They were like, it's anti-feminism. I'm like, how? It's like she's beating, she's like going through this. She's pretty much clearing her name and fighting for her life. People didn't like that. People didn't like 300. I love 300. I mean, I like the comic too, so I understood the route that the movie made. It made sense to me. And I liked his DC stuff too. So I was always like, if my stuff ever went to movies, he would be my Kevin Feige. Zack Snyder would be my Kevin Feige. I'm like, you find the directors that you feel can make what? Malachi, we're gonna talk later, Malachi. I mean,
I love it.
But so like he would be he would definitely be the one. But yeah, honestly, truthfully though, other than that, like I want to see myself to where 5 years from now, to where all of my books are, honestly, 5 years from now, I will like to be past my first major arc, which my first major arc is going to be cross title. So it's literally going to be all of my titles converging in on this single point. And no, I'm not going to do what Marvel and DC do and reset everything. Nope. They're gonna go to that point, fight that baddie, and then go about their business. And then start. I mean, there's going to be repercussions from it. The world's going to be different. I think I've you have to look for one of my lives on my So Verso lives, where I actually gave a spoiler of what will be going on with Earth after that point, which is a huge spoiler. I'm going to have to email Neil deGrasse Tyson and ask him how the world will be with the idea that I have. Like, what would happen like if I did this, so that I can make it reality.
Is he a Soverse fan, you think?
I don't know. I can send him some of my books and see what happens. I put a lot of science in my books. Like on one of my lives, I showed Michio Kaku is another theoretical physicist that I really like. And his book that he talked about with parallel universes and stuff like that, I actually use that theory to do my parallel universes and stuff. So it's not like, that's where a lot of people are like, oh, I don't mess with time travel, I don't do parallel. I'm like, I do, because I back it in real life science. So I make it work. But real life theories.
Right. Yeah.
Because we haven't time traveled yet, I don't think. So who knows though?
Maybe you have.
Maybe we have.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah. So that's
I like your 5-year vision.
Thank you. Thank you. What about you? 5 years from now, where do you see yours? Where do you see yourself and the amazing ICD?
Independently wealthy. No, no, that's never going to
Hey,
happen.
never know. Never know.
Um, gosh, I will be happy if ICD is still around and thriving in 5 years. I think it
It
will
will
be.
be. It will be.
One of the beauties of being a nonprofit is that we are governed by a board, so that even if I kick the bucket, the board would appoint a new person to lead. And so ICD continues.
Well, let's not
And
talk
so,
about that.
no, I don't have any plans, but just in case,
I'll bring you back. Like,
So
you're gonna have to.
5 years, 5 years. I want to be a featured news source for Apple News, for
Oh,
Google News, for Facebook News, and I think we can do
okay.
all that in 1 year. Actually,
I think so.
I want to be the
I think
top
so.
result when you search indie comics. I want to be the top result. I want people to come to Indie Comics Dispatch, trust what we say, and believe in the creators as much as we do.
Well, I think with these 4 pillars, if we all keep doing what we're doing and keep uplifting ICD, that's
Yep.
very possible.
Yep.
It's very
Yep.
possible.
Speaking of the 4 pillars, Concrete said earlier in the Instagram chat, the Mount Rushmore of publishing.
Right?
Right? Right? So,
Like how you think.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. So do you remember when we did kind of the backdoor pilot for Broadcast from the Dispatch?
oh man, it's because it was during that time with the other
Yeah.
nerd
Yeah.
group.
It was like right
No,
after,
no, no,
I
no.
think
It
we
was
did.
right after.
Yeah, we did that creators panel to
Mhm,
test how it would be to have a
mhm.
bunch of creators on all at the same time.
Yeah, and I think it was just individuals that we knew.
Yeah, we just like
We
sent out a
did.
message and we're like, "Hey, can you guys be on?" And we had like 9 people on or something like that. It was
Yeah, yeah, it
ridiculous
was
to try to
crazy.
manage. Yeah.
See, because what I do remember is after that show, and I
Hmm.
think the next show we had like maybe 6 people or something like that, and we got
Hmm.
together. We were like, you know what?
Too
We got to bring
many.
these numbers down. So we started working on that because we realized, even though it was fun, to get everybody's point of view and to get all the chatter back and forth, when you're trying to do it in a set time of an hour, you
Yeah.
have that big of a panel.
Yeah.
It
You
makes it a
can't.
little
You
harder.
can't do it
So
justice. You can't do it
and
justice.
then a lot of people get missed. A lot of people can't speak their piece or say what's on their mind because
Yeah.
I might overtalk them or someone else might overtalk them.
Never. You don't do that.
Never me. Never me. Never me. I just like to carry the show. That's
That's
not
what it
carry
is.
the show on my back, but I just like to move it forward. So
He's looking
like,
out for you guys. That's what he's doing.
like we don't need because I remember some of our shows where it was just crickets, like literally.
I mean, that is true. That is
I had a
true.
cricket singing to me in my room on one of our shows because it was crazy. It was just, and that's when I realized I was like, I need to, because you talk a lot, but you can't
Mhm.
carry everything yourself, and that's the reason why I'm here as the co-host. Like I need to be able to help with that.
Yep.
And like I said, I remember one of those shows. It was just crickets, and we were just
I
like,
think
me
I
and
was
you were
doing the
talking,
show.
and everybody else was just like,
yes.
yes.
Like
You're
small tip,
right.
we
It's
get
like,
people get nervous, but
Yeah.
practice before you come on the show
Yeah,
so that you
exactly.
can tell people about your book, right, or your project,
Exactly.
because that's the whole point.
Exactly. Like this is when you're on the show, in a sense. And Britt, correct me if I'm wrong. Like when you're on the show, like Britt and I are the hosts of the show, but it's your show. Like
Yeah.
you're putting you're letting people know about your universe. You're letting people know about
Mhm.
your mindset. You're letting people know about your theories, what you think, how you do things, the type of person that you are, the energy
Mhm.
that you carry. And one thing that I've learned is, doing my own lives, which I think working with you, Britt, has geared me to that because I was never going to do a live. I was like, I'm not freaking doing a live. But after doing all of this, I decided to start doing my own. But that's what brought people more into the Silvers because I was just like, oh, I like that guy. I like what he's talking about. I want to learn more about that. So
Mhm.
when you get on the show, it's your time to shine. It's your
Yep.
time to tell people about your product. If you get on the show and you're mum, you're not saying anything, the cricket is talking more than you are,
Yep.
that's not good. And people are going to be like, I don't know, and it's going to happen,
It is.
So
It is.
it's happened to me. So I'm just telling you from experience.
And if you're ever nervous about
So
being on the show, like we try to send you the questions ahead of time, try to send you everything
mhm,
we're going to talk about ahead of time, so that you're prepared. And so if you're out there
exactly.
wondering, like, I don't know that I want to be on the show because I'd be too nervous, we try to prepare you as best we can. So that means you
Mhm.
can now go pledge to the $65. You have the bridge tier and be on the show.
Exactly.
See how I did that?
Exactly. And yep, yep. I like that segue. And then if you really need some extra help, there's another dope tier that's a little bit higher. But
Hmm.
there's
Quentin, I
three of
feel like
those.
you've had two guests like that. There's two of your shows I watched as like, yeah,
Yeah,
that person needs to rehearse a little more.
yeah. And
You were
that's
great,
what honestly,
Quentin. You were great.
yeah. Quentin does well. Like
I love
I think
Quentin.
all of our individuals who have a show
Hmm.
do pretty well in
Hmm.
carrying the shows.
And so I want to talk about that for a second. So I took a leap, and sometimes I can be controlling, um, but I just didn't want to
What?
be. I didn't want to be, and so um, we towards the end of last year, I asked Scorpio. I said, Scorpio, like, you need your own show. Like, we'll
Mhm,
provide you the live stream platform. I
mhm.
have this show idea that I can't do. I'm maxed out. And you can make it your own. I won't be too overbearing. And so um, we set Scorpio up with Kickstarter connection. And then and then Quentin was talking about some stuff. I said, Quentin, man, what if you had your own show? Because he was
Yeah,
finding all these guests for us that I just couldn't fit in. I was
yeah.
trying my best to figure out where we could fit them in, and I just couldn't. I said, Quentin, what if you had your own show? And he was like, really? I was like, yeah, I'll provide,
Mhm,
again, I'll provide the streaming platform. You just stream to our destinations and make it your own. And that's what I love about ICD too, is that if you come to us, I feel like you or I,
mhm.
both, and are like, hey, I have this idea. We're like, well, fuck yeah, man, let's
Okay.
do it. Yeah,
Yeah,
like, let's
I'm
make
all
sure it's
about
done well, but
yeah.
let's do it.
Yep, I'm all about giving the
Yeah.
try to see what happens, and
Yep.
not even just giving the first try, but giving the second try because maybe the first try is rocky.
Mhm.
Honestly, if you would have went by the first broadcast from the dispatch, and the way that I was the co-host, like I was nowhere near. I was that cricket. I was that person in the first show because I was nervous about it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So not only giving that try, but giving that second try,
Yep.
and I'm all
Yeah.
about that, especially if you're really into it. And those individuals, Scorpio, Quentin, they're really into what they're doing. So yeah,
Mhm.
he does, and he's starting to find his
He does.
own. Like
Yeah.
Quentin, he's starting to find his own. I saw that with the show yesterday. Like just the way
Yeah.
he's getting into it and inviting the guests and
Mhm.
just making them feel like they're on a different show. And I think that's what I like about it because even
Yeah.
though we have broadcast from the dispatch, every other show feels like it's its own
It
show. It's
does.
almost like we're a television
Mhm.
broadcast company in a
And
sense,
that's and
and
then I want to
every show
give
feels its own.
Chris a shout out too. He does Business of
Mhm.
Comics once a month,
Yeah.
which is really like a
Yeah.
mini master's class in business and marketing of comics.
Mhm.
I mean, he's had some top-notch guests on, and again,
Yeah.
that show feels completely different.
Yeah, it does. And
Mhm.
that's a good thing. I think I
Well,
think he might have asked me something about the show not too long ago. I gotta check again.
okay.
I think
Yeah,
he may have.
go reread those
Something with
messages.
marketing, I think.
Okay.
Because I know he knows his stuff too. That's the
Yeah.
reason why I don't say too much. And I know that's the reason why you don't say too much too.
Mm-mm.
Because I
Yeah.
don't mention it like you've mentioned it, but he knows his stuff. So I'm
Yeah.
like,
He does. Yeah.
do the damn thing,
Yep.
you know.
Do it.
So
So again, if you're
um,
out there, you got an idea for us, and you think I want to do this,
mhm.
we're here for
Ready to
you.
step up to the plate.
Yeah.
Ready to step up to the plate. Like one thing it is just growing the indie comics world more,
Hmm.
and I think the more it grows, the more light is shined, and
It can't just be a show
eventually,
about you or a feature about you. It can't be like, I
yeah,
want to talk each week about my own indie comic or
yeah.
whatever. No.
You got your own lives for that. That's the reason why you noticed. That's the reason why I started doing so verse so live because I kind of felt even though like I'm the type of person when I talk about experience, I talk from my experience because that's the
Hmm.
only experience that I know. Like I
Hmm.
can't talk from Concrete's experience. I can't talk from
Right.
Windowless experience. I can't talk from Catalyst experience. I can only talk from Sovereign's experience. But I
Hmm.
started feeling bad about that because I'm like, damn, am I talking about my own shit too much? So I started doing so verse so live on
Yep.
Friday so that I can just talk about my
Talk
stuff,
about it all,
you
right?
know,
Yeah.
and just talk about everything, so because I kind of felt bad about that. That's the reason why you notice I don't bring up sovereign stuff too much because I have my I have my purge moment on Fridays when I can.
That's
So,
hilarious. So speaking of purge moments, what's one thing I don't know about you, Tier?
oh man. So, one thing you don't know, like contrary to popular belief, I was not born with locks, but I was born with an afro.
I have seen pictures deep in your Facebook photos of you with an afro.
Yes. Yes, I had a huge afro not so long ago. Even when I was a kid, I had a huge freaking afro. But that was a joke.
Okay.
So let's say two
Good.
things about. There's two things about me I don't think I've told you. The first thing, I actually, which is kind of crazy. I played college football. It was a D3 school.
No.
Yeah, I was a running back in high school. I was also a defensive end in high school. Got a lot of quarterback sacks because I was fast. But of course, in college, they're like, hell no, you're short, dude. We want our defensive ends to be towers. No. So honestly, that's exactly what the coach said to me. He looked at me. He was like, no, because I told him I was running back and I played defensive end. He was like, I saw the video. You're gonna be a running back here. So I actually went to the tryouts, made the team. Like I said, it was a D3 school. I had a 4.140, so I was fast as fuck.
Yeah.
But I was the only starting freshman
Wow.
as a slot back, and then I quit. So yeah, I quit playing. Later on, I went into the military, which leads up to the second thing that you didn't know about me, and that is I used to be a cop.
No.
Yes,
Did
that's the
not
reason why.
know that.
Yeah, it was military police, but I was still a cop. That's the
Okay.
reason why
Okay.
I get pissed off when I see a lot of the things that these police officers are doing, and people are saying,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, I'm fear for their life." Fuck that noise.
Mm-hmm.
Like, get away from me with that.
Mm-hmm.
I was there, and I wasn't shooting Marines. I wasn't shooting Iraqis and stuff just to shoot. Oh, fear for my life. My ass would have been in Leavenworth, and that's the truth. So, yeah, that's two things
Wow.
you didn't know about me. Played college
Yeah.
football, not quit, and then I was also military police. I was a military cop. So there you
Wow.
go.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
So
That's really neat.
yeah. So now everybody knows. So now everybody knows a little bit more about Tier. So yeah, what about you? What are some things about you that I may not know?
Um, gosh, I don't know. I grew up outside Chicago. I think you might have known that.
No, I didn't.
You
I thought
didn't?
you
Yeah.
were. Yeah, I thought you were Georgia boy your whole
No,
life.
no. First half of my childhood was outside of Chicago.
Okay.
And then we moved to outside of Nashville, Tennessee, a little bit before middle school. Just because my parents wanted to move, like they had no reason. They just wanted to move to Tennessee.
Mhm.
Who wants to move to Tennessee? I mean, lots of people do now. It's a booming spot, but back then it wasn't.
Yeah.
So that's why Peter from Peta Comics says I talk like a New York
Mhm.
cowboy, because half of my accent was formed outside of Chicago and half of it was formed outside of Nashville. So this is what you get.
Oh man,
I've been married almost this year will be 19 years. My wife and I have been married.
that's some numbers.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
which
some
seems
numbers.
crazy.
Yeah.
I have a daughter who's going to be a senior next year. A lot of people probably know that. But Anna, who drew the pinup for us,
Mhm.
she's turned 17.
Wow.
At the end of this month, May 28th. So,
Oh
my,
man. So she's gonna be in college soon. How are you gonna handle
yeah,
that? I
I'm going to cry a lot.
yeah.
That's how I'm going to handle that.
Y'all saw my daughter. She came by and asked me to open something for her, and she's right now she's 3. She's about to be 4 on the 16th. But I can't imagine. I don't want to imagine that yet. Like, nope,
Nope. Nope.
nope.
Anna's an old soul. She's been kind of an adult since she was probably 18 months old.
Mhm.
So I think I'm gonna have a harder time with my second oldest, who is gonna be 14 this year. And so yeah. Yeah. So my kids, in case anybody really wants to know, I have a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, all
Mhm.
all 4 close together, 2 13-year-olds and a almost 17-year-old.
Kids grow
Yeah,
fast, man. My son
they
is
do.
son's about to be 11. My son's about to be 11, and my daughter's about to be 4. And it's
Golly.
crazy because I remember when they were born. You know, like for my son, like which he kind of honestly that was kind of like for me that was the nail in the coffin when I knew I was getting the hell out. And it
Hmm.
was funny because they tried to keep me in. They was like, no, no, you're gonna run the combos. Like this is when I went to that when I left the Marines and went into the Army. The Marines, I was I did the military police anti-terrorism stuff. Oh, that's
Hmm.
another thing you didn't know about me.
No.
So that was in the Corps, but in the Army I was commo.
Okay.
And they wanted me to stay in.
I always
Um,
forget you were in both. Like I think you've said
yeah,
it in
yeah,
this show twice
yeah,
now, and I'm always
mhm.
like, really, twice?
Yeah. I was in both,
Yeah.
which is odd. Like usually people are like, "Oh man, what branch did you serve?" I'm like, Marines and Army. And they're like, "What the fuck?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, I'm not the only. And the crazy part is, I'm not the only one in my family who's done that. Like, I've had a couple
Really?
of uncles who've done that, done the same thing. Like my grandfather is a retired Marine. I come from a military family. My grandfather's a retired Marine. My dad was Army. My mom was Army. Both of them were air assault and airborne. And my granddad, when he was a recruiter, he recruited I think his cousin from the army into the Marine Corps. So I'm not the only one who's done that in my family. It's crazy. But yeah, like that's when I realized, like I said, it was the nail in the coffin because I my son was supposed to be born in May. We were deploying in March, and I was like, hey, let me stay to May and go. Like I've deployed like freaking 3 times. Like, can you just let me stay to see my son born? And they're like, no, you're gonna go because we need you to set up everything for combo. I'm like, okay, well, fuck it. They were like, we'll let you go home. So they let me go home to see him born, which I'm grateful of because there's a lot of individuals in the military who have kids and they can't go home to see their children born, which is very freaking sad. Like that causes a lot of depression, and I don't think a lot of people really fully understand that. Like just being away from your kid in a place where you don't know if you're going to come back is depressive as fuck.
Right.
So, but so like I said, I got home, got to see him born, and then I left, and then I came back. He was like 10 months old, and he was looking at me
Oh
like,
my goodness.
who the hell are you? And I'm just like, yeah, that's it, I'm done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and
I would have been
now he's
too.
11. So yeah, so
Wow.
and now he's 11. So it's crazy. It's really really crazy. So
That's so cool. Well, I want
mm,
to circle it back around to the Kickstarter. I think we've both gone through all of our questions. And we're approaching an hour and a half, which I knew we'd be over today. So I want to pop back up our stretch goals because that little arrow tomorrow when I post that graphic, it's going to be pointing down to the $4,000 stretch goal because we
oh yeah,
have surpassed the $3,000 mark. Everybody's getting a pinup by Dennis. Digital get digital, physical get physical, as is the case with most Kickstarters. But the next thing we're up to, and I don't know, I think we might be able to make this one still.
I
Is
think
an
we can
indie?
make him all.
You
I think we
think?
can make them all because everybody's dope.
Everybody is dope. That's true. Um,
I think they're gonna stay.
our next one is Indie Comic Throwdown trading cards. I need to go through all the licensing agreements and make sure before I say how many of those you're going to get, but you'll get the original art that we did for the battle, along with the back of it will feature information about the creators of those characters that were in that battle. So I am looking forward to that. If you haven't backed yet, the link is in all of our social medias. It's in the comment section for most of where we're streaming to right now. You can go back. There's all sorts of different tiers, all sorts of different levels you can sponsor. That maybe it allows you to get some cool stuff as a consumer. Maybe allows you to get some cool stuff as a creator. We have one person has pledged for the ICD Academy, which is our highest tier. You get an hour of one-on-one coaching
Oh
from one of
sweet.
our from one of our core team members, either Tier, Aaron, or Brian. All very successful indie comics creator. Well, except for the Tier guy, I don't know him.
Yeah,
But
now we're successful. Like I gotta honestly, like I used to beat myself up with that. I'm like, oh man, am I successful? And then I realized I got a dope ass fan base.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, I am.
And I think like if you've published more than 3 issues of issues period,
Mhm.
like you're in like some of the top so much percent of indie creators because a lot
Yeah,
of people never get past issue 2. Yeah, a lot
yeah,
of people never get past issue 1. Um,
exactly.
so
You know,
yeah,
you want to hear a funny story? Like I remember I was
yeah.
talking about something, and a certain individual. I'm not going to say who they are. I'll tell you after the show. said something like, well, no one should be talking unless they've, you know, published a third issue. And they said it right after I said what I said. And I kind of thought about it, and I'm just like, at first it kind of stung because I'm like, damn, well, they're right. But then I sat down and I looked at my comics, and I'm like,
oh wait,
I got like, I got like six titles. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, so it kind of tore me a little bit, but after that I was just like, no. And then I only have more titles to come. Like, you saw the list. I know I showed it to you.
Oh yeah.
And we found our artist for the Hellfighter, and I cannot wait. I think I showed you the plot, the synopsis for that, and man, y'all are gonna freak out when y'all see that.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
And it's horror, which is my baby. That's my first story I ever wrote in my life, was a horror story in the first grade that got me in trouble. so
Mrs. Jackson, we're worried about Tyr.
Yeah, what's up? Yeah, what's up with your son? Like, you had to help him write this. Like, this is so dark. Mom's like, I had no idea. He watches the V and It and The Stand and all of that other stuff, so it makes sense.
Totally does. Well, guys, our time and our liquor is running out. Again, we can't thank you enough for everything that
There's only rocks in here now.
Yeah, mine's completely empty. We cannot thank you enough for the success of this. Saturday was a really weird day for me. I had to actually live stream all day for my work, and so I was doing that, launching the campaign in between live streams, and then my son had to go to the ER. He's fine. He thought he was going to die. He didn't. My 6-year-old son, he's a bit over dramatic, thought he was going to die. He did not. He just had a splinter in his foot. So he's fine. But just seeing everything come pouring in and funding in less than 6 hours was amazing. And totally blew me away. I wish I had more time to respond to everything happening on Saturday. But I really didn't. It was a crazy day. So everybody out there, everybody who stuck with us for this hour and a half, everybody who has stuck with us over this past year, really, or at least since October, when we kind of really truly rebooted and relaunched things. It's been a great ride, and I can't wait till we're sitting here a year from now talking about year 3.
Doing this again next May. And I'm gonna say the same. Thank you, everybody who supported. This has been one crazy year, and it's been nothing but fun. And I've learned a lot from folks, and I hope that you've learned a lot from Britt and I too. So it's been crazy. I enjoyed it, and thank you all for the support. Like, truly.
Instagram, we enjoyed seeing you again this week. It's been a while since we've live streamed to Instagram, and so we're going to do it all in May. After that, we want you back on Facebook and YouTube, just because it's better for us, really, for long-term success. Because
this is just a homage thing.
Exactly. So we're gonna exactly. So we're gonna say goodbye to you first, Instagram. I'm gonna hit the stop broadcasting button for there, and then YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Take it easy.